Hi, I'm Shane Jones. Making headlines tonight. Police searching for suspects in relation to an ATM scam over the weekend. A large number of people already making use of the 24-hour system at the Winston Scott Polyclinic. Government providing dozens of housing solutions in St. Lucie for Barbadians. And coming up in sports, Cricket World Cup's first semi-final between India and New Zealand goes into a reserve day.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC News Night, starting now.
The Royal Barbados Police Force has made a major breakthrough in the widespread ATM fraud case that has hit the island. Our Lisa Broom has been following that story closely and joins us live now for the very latest. Lisa, good evening. I understand that some photo evidence has surfaced that has advanced investigations.
That's right, Shane. And at this very hour, the Royal Barbados Police Force is following that lead. Now, as you know, many Barbadians have been up in arms with numerous complaints of finding out that money had been removed from their bank accounts without their knowledge. Well, now today, the investigation into these cases got a huge shot in the arm when police released these 3 photos of 2 suspects. Take a look at this, Shane. Now, this is security cam footage from ATMs where the suspected skimming took place. In a release today, the Royal Barbados Police Force says it is seeking the assistance of the public in identifying and locating the 2 men captured in these images. The public that is asked to be on the lookout for them, and the police confirmed that there are indeed suspects in a number of reported cases of ATM fraud. Now, if you know or you've seen either of these 2, you're asked to immediately contact the Criminal Investigation Department at 430-7189 or 430-9019. You can also call the police emergency at 211, Crime Stoppers at 1-800-8477, that is 1-800-TIPS, or you can call the nearest police station. So, Shane, that's the update for right now. The police is making some progress, and I'm sure Barbadians are hoping to have the issue behind them very soon.
Now, Lisa, before you go, some people may be watching and hearing us use the term skimming. Can you break that down for our viewers? What exactly is skimming?
Okay, so when we talk about skimming, Shane, we're simply referring to a type of fraud. It occurs when an ATM is compromised by a skimming device, which is mostly a card reader which can be disguised to look like part of the machine. So the card reader saves the user's card number and PIN code, which is then replicated on a counterfeit copy for theft. So I hope that clears it up somewhat, Shane.
Thanks so much, Lisa. The East Coast is still being looked at as a venue for major events in the future. Speaking with reference to the Soca Monarch Finals once again returning to the Soup Bowl, Prime Minister Mia Amor-Mottley spoke about the unique challenges facing the Scotland District regarding land slippage. She says it's something they have to get right before a return, and that will take time.
The government is now trying to see how we can put together a coherent plan, but that is not a tomorrow plan or a next year plan. And hence, once we can do that and put in the services on the East Coast and stabilize the grounds, I would like very much at some point in the next few years, not necessarily to see it for this crop over event, but to have that East Coast venue being made available for other local and international events, because it is too spectacular a site for us to abandon and not to do anything with. But it requires stabilization, and it requires us stabilizing the transport routes in and out of the East Coast, which means dealing with the roads that have been buckling.
Health Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic says the new 24-hour system at the Winston Scott Polyclinic is working well so far, with a large number of Barbadians making use of the extended hours. The minister made the remarks during a press briefing to give an update on the implementation of the new system, which went into effect from July 1st. Joining us now with details is Ryan Broom. Hi, Ryan.
Good evening, Shane. Good evening, viewers. Well, as you know, the initial plan was for all polyclinics to adopt a 24-hour system. But after talks that involved government and union officials, they agreed to start of the system at just one polyclinic, the Winston Scott Polyclinic, which is now a week old. And the minister says, so far, so good.
The clinic so far has been very well received by patients. fully supported by doctors and nurses and staff. And I'm happy to report that so far things are going quite well. A number of patients have been visiting the polyclinic. For the first 3 days, for example, we would have averaged about 95 patients per day. And during the graveyard shift or the night shift, at the moment, for those 3 days, about 9 or 10 persons would have visited the polyclinic.
Now, Minister Bostic expects the numbers will continue to increase, especially when the public recognizes the wide range of health services being offered. And he says the only issue that was encountered related to transportation for patients between Queen Elizabeth Hospital and Winston Scott after hours, but it is currently being addressed. Now, he adds that use of the polyclinic has already started to have an impact on the numbers at the Accident and Emergency Department of the QEH.
Yes, there's been a decrease at the A&E, Accident and Emergency Department. It is not as obvious at this point in time as we would like, certainly, because it's it's just started, and we also have a situation where the hospital is full, and even with having persons transferred to the Winston Scott Polyclinic, the Accident and Emergency will still have a large number of persons who are waiting to be seen on the inside. But those patients, the clients that we are catering to at Winston Scott, which would be persons who would be seen for the most part and discharged, the flow has started and we expect it to continue.
Now, Minister Bostic also addressed reports of an apparent sickout at the geriatric hospital yesterday. He says while some of the reports suggested that the action was connected to the start of the new 24-hour polyclinic system, that is not the case. The minister adds that he responded swiftly to address the situation.
I actually went to the hospital, geriatric. I was there last night till very late speaking with the staff there to satisfy myself, first of all, that the care of the patients was not compromised in any way, and I really thank those persons who came back out or came out to be able to assist. And I had a meeting recently, I just came from a meeting with the staff at the hospital who have reported for duty today. And the issues really had nothing to do with the exodus of the nurses to the polyclinic, because we planned for that in terms of rearranging the shifts until we are able to source the nurses. And that process is with the Ministry of the Public Service in terms of filling the positions, the 13 or 14 positions.
I should note the health minister also insists that they're not replacing nurses with nursing assistants, although the services of nursing assistants have been generally used for a number of years. And he says they're also still looking to external sources to help alleviate the situation. Well, Shane, the minister plans to give an update on the 24-hour system after a full month has passed, but he says if the first week is anything to go by, it should be a success that benefits Barbadians in search of health care at any hour of the day or night.
Dozens of Barbadians stand to benefit from housing solutions planned for St. Lucie. Government today has moved to vest 9 acres of land at Carlton Plantation, St. Lucie, to the Crown for housing development. Minister in the Ministry of Housing, Charles Griffith, says 79 houses will be constructed on the land.
I am pleased, Mr. Speaker, to be involved in the process of moving this resolution. We know it is one of the ways of providing an opportunity for future wealth development for our children, acquiring land, and the ministry have been struggling for a number of years to find financing and to find land to initiate programs of housing, particularly low-cost housing for persons who reside in this country. Now, the fact that we are cash-strapped means that we now have to look to PPPs, private partnerships, in order to trigger development.
Mr. Griffith admits it will take time to solve the vexing issues affecting government housing estates across Barbados. These include the divestment program and electrical upgrades.
We are doing what is necessary. I know maybe in a week's time or so that electrical upgrade will happen. We have identified those electricians that will be a part of the process, and that will happen very, very soon. Mr. Speaker, we have paid engineers to the tune of $1.3 million to carry out the assessment across the particular housing estates as it relates again to this divestment program.
Minister George Payne has broken his silence on the issues facing the National Housing Corporation. This after the death of teenager Kyrique Boyce, who fell into a 100-foot well behind one of the units at Martin Road in the Pine last week. He says managing the housing estates is a major problem as people are not paying the rents as they should, so no money is coming in. He says in order to do a proper inspection of the estate in the Pine, about half of the residents would need to be temporarily relocated, and this is not feasible right now. But Mr. Payne says the blame game must stop.
I would hope that out of this, we would be able to have a meaningful change, some sort of transformation in the way things are done in these housing estates. As I said, the housing Pine is a very serious problem. The Prime Minister spoke about the planning gains. It is not a case where tomorrow you could actually, especially those houses that are, those areas that are built on wells, that you could actually get those problems rectified. But in many cases, we may have to shift a number of those persons. Or I would say the solution, the real solution to the problems in the Pine is one that we cannot do at this particular point in time.
Education Minister Santia Bradshaw is calling for a sense of urgency from the National Housing Corporation to address the issues plaguing housing areas across the island. In a passionate speech in Parliament today, she stressed the fatal incident which occurred in her constituency last week must never happen again.
It is not just about wells. You can take a drive through these housing estates and you will find it is issues of the electrical upgrades, which we have had to obviously address in recent months in relation to putting a program in place to deal with the issue of electrical upgrades. We have had some lazy people before us who have not made this a priority. That because in some cases we have not addressed the issues of social welfare for households, that we've found ourselves in a situation where people are living in conditions where for several months they can't afford to pay for electricity.
Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley wants government to be more strategic in its thinking when it comes to creating housing projects. He says government can provide land more easily than it can houses and can in turn help people to build homes on that land. But what Bishop Atherley says is most important is for government to ensure wholesome communities are created within its housing projects going forward.
Build communities that conduce to healthy family life in Barbados. If we fail to do that, we've not only failed to provide people with housing, but we failed to facilitate the development of that institution in Barbados, which is basic to the good order of society, and that is the institution of the family. So when we build, it must be with a view in mind, Mr. Deputy Speaker, of facilitating wholesome family life.
Checking in with our regional neighbors now, Guyana has seen a notable increase in suspicious reports of money launderers and drug traffickers using the money transfer agencies to funnel their dirty money. The revelation from the Financial Intelligence Unit. We hear more from NCN.
331 reports of suspicious transactions were reported to the Financial Intelligence Unit, FIU, during the financial reporting period ending December 31, 2018. Director of the FIU, Matthew Langevine, made this disclosure when he officially handed over its audited financial report for 2018 to Minister of Finance, Winston Jordan, on Monday at the Minister's Main Street, Georgetown office. These suspicious transactions were valued at in excess of 8.5 billion Ghana dollars.
The transactions that were flagged by the financial and non-financial sector and shared with us to see if there's need for any investigation. The significant majority of these was from the financial money transfer agency sector. I would have spent a lot of time within the last few months talking about the risks and the issues we've been seeing in this sector, and as it continues, and we've done a lot of work in sharing information with the Special Organized Crime Unit and the other stakeholders, the central bank, about some of the suspicious activity we've been seeing in the sector.
There has also been suspicious transactions relating to drug trafficking, tax evasion, corruption in public office, terrorist financing, and insider trading.
Ongoing violence is having an impact on classrooms in Trinidad and Tobago. For teacher Candace Phillip, it's a reality she has been living for close to 20 years. CNC3 TV reports.
For nearly 2 decades, Candace Phillips has been a teacher here at the St. Barb's Primary School in Laventille. But while most teachers witness the growth and development of their students, she's seen some of us succumb to violence, which has become pervasive in the area.
Many murders of students I would have known since the age of 5 years old. They were murdered from the age of 16 years old and into their early 20s, not really being able, they weren't given the opportunity to enjoy life, to really live. That's what I have experienced thus far.
When police identify victims who have been killed as a result of violence and gang warfare in her community, Phillip almost immediately recognizes the name.
To my recollection, I have noted at least 24 students have passed in my 19 years.
Jamaica's opposition leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, remains firm in his stance that another state of emergency will not, by itself, solve the country's crime issue. CVM TV has more.
The leader of the People's National Party, Dr. Peter Phillips, is holding firm to his position that a state of public emergency in high crime areas will never be sufficient. Dr. Phillips says crime has been plaguing sections of South St. Andrew for some time, yet the government has not been successful in tackling the issue. He believes this is an indication that the government has only 2 approaches in fighting crime.
We still do not have a comprehensive strategic plan provided by the government as to how, in the country as a whole, we're going to take control of the security situation.
At the same time, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the epidemic levels of crime can be reduced with long-term interventions.